Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's episode 115 of Mike and Blaine. I'm Mike Blaine, also known as Cashflow Mike. That is my partner, my friend, my co-host, Blaine Birch, the CEO, founder of Dry Run, the best cash flow forecasting application in the planet. How's that? How's that for an intro?
Beauty. I love it. I love it.
I'm always, one of the hardest things in the world to do is start this podcast. I'm like, what do you say first? What do you say, right?
I don't know. You're so good at it. It's just smooth and slick. And then you pass it over to me and I'm like, I don't know what to say. I'm going to drink beer and sit here.
I like to drink beer too. Hey, we got beer sponsors. We got beer to drink. We got a great topic today. You probably saw it. I mean, because and I got to tell you, the topic today came from a friend last night. And he didn't know it was going to come from him, but it was one of those things where he said, you guys should talk about this, right? And we're talking about being a consultant, about what that's like. How do you get started? What do you look for? Whether I'm buying a consultant's time or I'm trying to be one. But what I liked about this was I want our listeners to be fed, right? I look at this as daily bread, right? Meaning that if you want to hear something, if there's a topic on your mind, you're like going, you never get to what I want to talk about. This is proof that we will listen and we will respond, right, with the topic. So I didn't want to talk about this, but this is where we ended up.
No, I think it's a very cool topic. And even though like we're a software company, we're not a consulting firm. There's a lot of times where we've done sort of some consulting, especially on the CPA side, like helping them implement their client advisory services. And with you, I know you're doing a lot of that right now. And it's interesting because it is a great way for almost any business to increase their sales, but it's also a great way to leverage into a business. But we better talk about beer before we get too far into this.
Oh yeah, that's right. So, hey, first of all, let me say, neighbor Pat. I didn't see him on Halloween, but I was hoping to because I've got these brand new bags that he has to feel the power of. Right, this guy has to feel the power of these brand new bags. I didn't realize this. There's a scoring mechanism on these bags, right? If you see numbers behind cornhole bags and it'll say like 3/8, well, that's the stickiness factor of these things. So 3 meaning pretty slick, 8 meaning pretty sticky, right? Well, that's what these things are. It's real slick on one side and sticky on the other. So you can really dial in what you're trying to do. So I cannot wait to put it on Pat.
Well, what are you going to do if you spent all this money on new fancy bags and he comes in and kicks your ass with them up and down the block?
I don't think that happened.
You don't think? Well, see, Pat, if you're listening, I really want to hear what happens when you get your hands on them.
Maybe it could. I mean, there was like 1 or 2 times in the past. I think it's been like 2 or 3, maybe even 10 years ago that he beat me the last time. I can't remember now how long it's been.
Your phone's already going with text messages, I'm sure, because some of that sounds pretty bullshit to me. But anyway, I'll let it go. I don't even know
where my phone is. So if you're texting me during this episode, I'm definitely not going to respond because I have no idea where the phone is.
Pat, if you have my number, text me. I think you might. I got my phone right here. It's ready to rock. So,
but we got 2 other sponsors, right? We got 2 other sponsors.
Oh yeah. So well, neighbor Pat, of course. Thank you again, Larry Weinstein. Larry I may be bumping into tomorrow. I hope so. I'd love to have a beer with Larry. So Larry, if you're listening, buzz me. Let's get the time down. And over to you for Rachel.
Yeah. Hey, one of my favorite Canadian friends, right, that I met in Seattle. She's living, I think, in Ottawa, if I don't get that right. Gentle Frog, right? Gentle Frog is the name of her company. Rachel Barnett, one of our great sponsors right now. She has a course. If you don't know anything about QuickBooks, if you want to learn, if you just want to go from zero, I think we've been calling it 0 to 60. She has a course for you. So she can take you from not knowing anything about QuickBooks to being an expert user in no time at all, no time flat. So check out her course, go to Gentle Frog and ask for Rachel. Tell you heard it right here on Mike and Blaine.
Thank you again, Rachel. I'm thoroughly enjoying the beer, and actually I'm going to show you which beer I've got. So usually I go with a beer that was related to the topic. I just stopped by a liquor store last night to get a whole bunch of beer, but I'm doing a little different this time because I missed these guys so much when I was in Canada. So I got Oats McGoats, which if I was a consultant, I think I'd use that name, Oats McGoats, because it's so awesome. And it's a Goldwater Brewing Company who I've missed because it's even hard to find cans of theirs outside of the brewery, let alone in Canada. And they are outstanding. It's one of my favorite breweries in the valley here. So that's why I had to feature today.
Right on. All right. So I found another Texas brewery I wasn't aware of, right? Panther Island Brewery up in Fort Worth, right? So it's on the other side of Texas. But it was the cold god of the north wind, the god of winter, Oreas, right? So kind of like the can, kind of look at the lightning shooting out of his eyes. He's got the cold wind coming out of his breath. Yeah, I just thought it was good. So if you're going to have a consultant that looks like this, I think you'd listen.
And you know what? I would never pick that beer because it was getting cold up in Canada and we had a little bit of weather on the way down, and I was so glad to get down here. I actually managed to hop out my bike today because I had to pop over and get my tires, a little bit of work done on them. It was lovely. It was beautiful. It was like no wind.
Yeah.
I don't know what is it in Fahrenheit? Probably high 70s, close to 80. Gorgeous. Oh my God. It was beautiful riding there, especially after our last ride in Edmonton was just above freezing. And it was not that fun because it was just above freezing.
All right, so I'm a little nervous because these are 10.5. These are 10.5%. So if I'm stumbling, bumbling, and rumbling through the end of this podcast, you're gonna know why.
Yeah, I'm 7.5, so I'm okay. I'll carry it at the end if I have to.
Yeah, you might have to. You know me, you get all chatty, and I get like, ooh, like.
Yeah, you just get quiet, and I just can't shut up. Like, hey, I just did a sentence that went on for 45 seconds.
All right, so we're going to take Larry Weinstein's advice and talk just a little bit about us. I mean, I am Cashflow Mike, and right now is the best time to get involved with my cash flow certification process. Program. Damn this. I haven't even taken a drink of this yet, and look at me stumbling. But yeah, I have a program called Pathfinder, which is the Clear Path to Cash certification program, and it teaches you how to master cash flow. More importantly, it helps you and gives you the tools to help your clients master cash flow. One of the great ideas I've got for accountants, CPAs that are doing tax this year, if you do the Clear Path to Cash, if you get my app, the Clear Path to Cash, it comes and you can generate a custom PDF for your client. And here's my idea. Print out the PDF, put it on top of the tax return, and say, hey, while I had your information, I did some analysis for you. I don't have time to talk about it right now, but after tax season, let me talk to you. If you want to improve your cash flow advisory services, if you want to sell more this year, try that. And I promise you, people will want to talk to you.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna build on that actually, because Dry Run is a tool that CPAs use to talk with their clients about cash flow, to help them visualize their cash flow, visualize how long your cash is going to last, even what your sales look like and how that's going to impact your cash flow, and then model scenarios to figure out what if this happens, what if that happens, what if I got to expand. Whatever you need to do, you can do in Dry Run, and we can get you up and running in literally a few minutes. So come and visit us at dryrun.com, and we'll get you up and running.
Right on. All right. So here's what it is. We're going to talk about, consultancy and going from taking your skill, whatever your skill may be, and turning that into a business. Here's how it happened. I have a friend in Baltimore, right? And this is a funny story, right? So I have a friend in Baltimore. His name is Mike Blaine. That sound familiar?
Yeah, you mentioned it before. I got to hear
one of my
this.
favorite things to do is go hang out with him, and then we go, hey, two Mike Blaines walk into a bar. Sounds like a joke, but it actually happens in real life more than you think. Uh,
Nice.
he texted me. He didn't call me at first. I ended up calling him. He texted me last night, late last night. It was like 10:30 my time, and says, when you cross the border, flip them the bird. And you know how my friends are. They just throw random shit at us from like they're listening to a podcast and like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That one I understood because I just said that last week. And last week, remember I told you about
You
the
did.
bird? I'm like, okay, I get it. He's listening to the podcast. And it's got to be like 11:30 his time. So he just shoots me this random thing. Now, the one that always gets me is Breger. Breger will listen to episodes from like 10 months ago or a year ago, and he'll say something random from an episode. And I'm like, what? Even
Yeah, we barely remember last week.
I do remember last week. So I'm like going, no, you can't just talk about, something from the podcast. And I called him. So he told me a couple things about this podcast. I'm like going, oh, you know how Larry gives us advice? So Mike had some advice. He basically said, we should talk about different things, was one. But B, he says, I listen to a handful of podcasts, but I can't listen to Mike and Blaine without stopping and paying attention. Everybody else I can just kind of have in the background and it's fine. But you guys, I actually have to stop and listen to it. I'm like going, well, what, you think we're like a couple of professors out here spitting science formulas and stuff around them? Right? I don't know. What do you think about that statement in and of itself, that somebody has to stop and pay attention?
I'm not sure if we should take that as a compliment or a complete punch in the gut, because they can't understand what the hell we're talking about without stopping and thinking about it.
Maybe there's so much gibberish. Maybe there's too much BS in our stuff that, or maybe there's not enough. Maybe we do spit science around here. I don't know.
I don't know, but with the complete lack of planning we have, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. So if you have to pull over, that's okay. That's okay. You get the fact that he's willing to stop and listen tells me that that's a good thing. That other Mike, other Eminem,
he's the less handsome version of the Mike Mylans.
Oh boy, that's another? It's almost like the cornhole bags that you got a lot of bragging going on, but I'm not sure.
It's damn hard to be my friend, right? I mean, because you're going to catch it one way or the other. You're going to catch something. So think about it. But that's not the only Mike Mylan I know. My dad was Mike Mylan. I have a cousin right now just traveling the world. It seems like I see him from anywhere from Oregon. He was in Niagara Falls like last week. He was in Arizona. This guy is everywhere living the life. So I'm like going, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I got to be on a podcast with you.
I know we're both like in purgatory here. So.
All right. So what he was saying, right? So he's considering a career change. And the entire time I've known him, which is about 16 years, I told you how we met, right?
I don't recall how, though. You told me, but I just can't remember the details.
Exactly what you would tell your kids not to do. I did exactly what I tell my kids not to do. We met online. I had a MySpace page. Now, I'll tell you how long ago that I met him. I had a MySpace page, and I get this random message from a Mike Mylan. I'm like, this has got to be bullshit, right? No. And he says, hey, I only got one question. How do you pronounce your last name? Because most people will go Milan, there's some fancy European flair they put onto it. I'm like going,
yeah, I'm going to start using that too.
Yeah, because I'm fancy like that, right? So, but I just said it's Mylan, like the song, right? This land is your land. This land is my land. It used to be when people would call me up, I would know if they were my friend or not because they'd mispronounce the name. I'm like, this is somebody I don't know. So it's easy to hang up on somebody that can't get your name right. So that's all he had. And he said, oh my God, that's how we pronounce our name too. And I don't know that we've ever traced it to where we're related, but I heard the original story was our name was Irish and it was Moylan. Moilan, right? And for whatever reason, a couple of grandpas ago, they dropped the O out to look Irish, or to look Italian, not Irish. And
Yeah. 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 I've literally, like, my grandpa and his brothers literally spelt their names differently when they got to Canada. Like I don't even know how that happens, but they literally changed the way they spelled their names. And I think it's pretty frequent that many years ago. But I still got, I get the same problem as you. People can't pronounce it. I got one vowel and 7 letters. There's been a lot of hockey rinks where they're, when I was a kid, and, and coming onto the ice, Blaine Burt's
what's wrong with that guy? He's got a speech impediment.
Yeah, it's like, that's just not how it works. But anyway, well, I'll live with it.
It's easy to pronounce, right? Once you kind of look at it, it's just birch, right? Now you expect birch to be what? BIRCH.
Yeah, not BERTSCH. There's a lot of consonants in there that I'm not sure they make a lot of sense, but it's what it is, man. I don't know.
Makes sense, right?
They like their letters.
Okay, so before I was way off track, for at least that long, since MySpace, maybe before, he has been in medical device sales. And I'm not talking about just like, hey, I'm selling just rinky-dink little stuff. This guy has been side by side with physicians, teaching them how to use surgical equipment during surgeries. So he's like suiting up, putting the mask on, teaching, and being, support for the surgeon during the surgery with these devices. I mean, he's done a lot with the back, and he could tell me a lot more what he's done. But so where I'm more handsome, he's probably a lot more intelligent. I mean, you think about it. They're not going to let me into an operating room to teach a surgeon anything.
Yeah, teach the doctor how to manage his cash flow after he's finished his surgery up and pocketing all the cash, right?
All right. So, side note on our thing, we have he's a Baltimore Ravens fan for NFL football. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. So when they play, we call it the Mike Blaine Bowl.
Nice.
We do.
Do you have a trophy?
It is an engraved decanter, right? That gets shipped back and forth. And currently, he is the holder of the decanter. So I don't only have it, or I'd show you right now that we have it. But it is engraved on one side, the Mike Blaine Bowl, and then on the other side, I forget, there's something else on the other side. But yeah, he is the current holder of the decanter, and I want desperately to have that right there on that shelf. So I need him to
get it back.
He did show me a box of beers, so he could be our next sponsor because he has a box of beers that's half full right now that he's putting together to ship to me of just things that he's run across and wants me to try. He even mentioned like
nice.
I think it was Guinness Blonde. You ever heard of that? Okay, so I never have, but I don't think he's going to send it because it says you have to drink it ASAP or something. I forget. There's some you can't. He thinks it'll be too long a time from with shipping it and me drinking it, and it won't be as good. It's kind of a bullshit. I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know if the Guinness Blonde, like IPAs fade fast. Like there's some that fade really fast. You want to drink them fresh, and some last for years. And it's just, Here we dive into the beer side. I was like a kid in a candy store last night. I went to this liquor store in North Scottsdale called Trevor's. I'm going to boost them because they had a really nice selection. It's not that far. And I walked in. Of course, I've been looking at Canadian beer for how many months. And so it was nice to go in and go, oh my God. And I'm like, this is all new, cool stuff. A bunch I haven't tried, and a bunch I'm like, oh my God, that's a favorite. And I was just filling up a cart. So I was quite excited to do that. Yeah.
I'm probably 85, 90% sure I'm going to be back in February. Right?
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I'll be back in February for the golf tournament.
Sweet.
Yeah, right.
Sweet. That would be awesome.
All right, so let's talk about it. So his question at the end of, of course, now we've done 20 minutes of bullshitting, but his question after probably 30 minutes of bullshitting with him last night was, hey, it seemed like you did this. how could I do it? What would I get started? What should I think about? What should I do? How do I value my services? So he actually had some good questions about starting a consulting business. Now, what I thought between you and I is, yeah, I'm doing that now, but more importantly, I've hired others in the past, right? So, I mean, so I kind of know what I like about
Yeah.
some and what I don't like about some. I mean, what's been your experience with consultants?
No. Very little on the paid side. Like I've had a lot of advisors and mentors and like formal advisors, mentors, and that they're not the same as a consultant. I think we've done some consulting here and there, and even in my past life in the creative world, we've done some consulting there. It's just, but yeah, you probably, especially now, you've done a lot of it. You probably have a lot more experience than I do in it. So I'd like to hear what you like about people that you've hired.
Right. So, I mean, I think I'm going to start that answer with what I don't like. Because I can almost sniff this out real fast. I mean, anymore. It comes from my very first consultant I ever hired. He was in the restaurants. Remember I was in hotel staffing and originally got into restaurants. I'm like going, I'm going to really lose my ass if I don't figure this out. So I hired this consultant. He brought another guy with him. Two guys come in and they ask me, hey, what do you think's going on in your company? What do you think's happening? And I tell them, I say, hey, I think I have an inventory control problem. I think I got an employee morale problem, and there's a pricing gross profit problem. That's what I think's happening. They take my stuff, go away for 2 weeks, come back with a 2-inch binder that basically says I have an inventory control problem, a pricing problem, and an employee morale problem.
Yeah.
So I'm like going, one of the things I need you to do is think beyond me. Show me my blind spot. Don't show me what I already kind of know. If I illuminate a problem to you, don't tell me I have that problem.
Yeah. You know what? I had completely forgot about this when I came up with the idea for dry runs. We're going back before before it was barely an idea. I got a grant to get some consulting done to see if this was a viable idea. And I used the report to turn that into other grants. Like I don't remember exactly how, but it was really useful to turn it into other grants to say like, hey, these third party people with a nice logo, like, and well-known said this, so you should support me. And I kind of forgot about that. But the actual document, when I got it, was basically the same thing. You kind of flip through and it's like, yeah, you're kind of telling me everything I already know, and some of it you probably don't know as much as me anyway. But I'm just getting started, and I was still like, yeah, okay. But if I had paid that cash out of my pocket at that time for just that information, I'd been pissed. I'm like, this is not, like you said, it's not highlighting the blind spot. It's kind of stating the obvious. It's almost like the same thing, parodying a little bit of, this is what we're about, and they kind of put it into document form, and not that one was the same thing. Not, I don't think.
It's like you go to the doctor and say, "Hey, doctor, I got a cut on my arm. I think I need a Band-Aid." And the doctor looks at it and goes, "Hey, you got a cut on your arm. You need a Band-Aid."
Exactly. Here's a $3,000 Band-Aid.
So, can I tell you something, and you not get mad at me? I'm looking at your new glasses. Right? I'm looking at your new glasses, and all I can think is Dig Dug from the 80s, 90s. You remember the video game Dig Dug, where you go down, you dig into subterranean levels, and you get these ghosts or moles or whatever it is, and you pump them up with air, and they blow up? It's a video game.
I don't think I've ever.
I
don't think I've ever played it or seen it, but I'm okay with it being a little retro. That's the
shape
fun.
of the glasses and all that. I'm like, that looks like Dig Dug to me.
Yeah. I just like something different, and I found these. I just like something different, and when I found these, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting those. And I had to order them. I think they came from like freaking Italy or something, and They had to like custom paint them and all that stuff. It was kind of a pain. We almost didn't get them before we left because it took so long to get all of our shit together. And I got sunglasses too in the same frames. And so they're great for driving because I needed prescription sunglasses. So, but no, I just want something different, man. I as soon as people start wearing the same thing,
would you have been
I start to
you would have missed it by like 3 days, or would you have had somebody ship them down to you?
They would have shipped them. They would have shipped them. I had my glasses. There's the sunglasses that were lagging behind, but it could have been both, and that would have sucked to drive down and everything without them because they got to size them all, do all that little nitpicking stuff. So I don't know. And they're all like they're titanium, so nice and light and everything. And
all right, so
they're fun.
Here's where I'm going to start this conversation. I think if you're going to be a consultant, you have to have a niche right off the bat. You can't say even me. I had to niche into accountants, bookkeepers more than I do other things. But when I say who do I work with accountants, bookkeepers. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my niche. So I think you have to start with, what do I know the best of? What can I be an expert in? What can I walk in and speak the language of the person who I think should know the most? Right? Because
you got to pick your niche. Mike.
See, that's just it. I got to Texas and all my fancy words left, even pronunciation.
I'm still going to pull out the Canadiana for another month or two before the American starts, sneaking back in. But it's a niche up in Canada.
I think some people call it that here too. But I think you got to start there. So let's think about this guy. I mean, he has set up operating rooms. He has worked side by side with physicians. Mm-hmm. There are not a lot of people that can talk that language. I mean,
yeah. Now but the place to me, like because I did some consulting in between when I sold my last business and before I kind of came up with the idea of dry run, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I made up a corporation just because I knew I had to do something. And I have no idea, a year, 2 years or something, I did a lot of consulting. And I didn't sort of go out and try and do it. It was kind of there for the taking. And I feel like in this case, it's the same thing as he's doing all the stuff. He's so valuable. Is there the opportunity as a consultant? Like, are they asking for that? Like, is it sitting there for the taking? It's almost so natural.
I think that's really important. Right? I mean, is there a need? I mean, he's sat side by side with these folks. He knows the questions they ask. Is there a need? All right. So like with the bookstores, right? Courtney deals with bookstores. There's actually a couple of different, maybe 5 different decent consulting firms that help universities put together RFPs, requests for proposals, just so they can go out and put their things to bid, right? They put their bookstore operations to bid. Yeah. Think about that. Their whole business model is just helping you ask the right questions to get the service that you want on a bid as a university. And it's thousands upon thousands of dollars. Is there a market, we'll say in his case, for a surgical team or a hospital or a group of hospitals or medical centers? I don't know the terminology. But is there a need where they'd be willing to pay him to navigate that process instead of dealing with individual sales companies? He navigates the third-party medical device sales for a group.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that there has to be the need and the opportunity in there, because what he's doing now is, of course, it's a straight pipeline and the responsibility is from the manufacturer, right? Like they're not going to hire a third party to talk about, likely, I don't really know. I'm guessing they're not going to hire a third party to talk about a device like that when it's really the responsibility of probably part of the package. But you're right. Is there a level up where there's this real opportunity? And as soon as you said RFP, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I'm like, we could do an entire episode on how much I hate RFPs and why we quit doing them. And how much free consultancy we did that turned into an RFP, but fortunately we would only do that if we were pretty sure
No,
we
I
were
mean,
getting the deal. So,
even when I had Jandora Company, it was all RFPs, right? And I always felt like when we went to the
yeah.
bid walk, or the informational meeting, that they already knew who they were picking. I always felt that.
Yeah.
Always.
They do. Always. And we would never submit a proposal to, like, we did a couple early on and we're like, well, that's 30 or 40 grand. We're not getting back in time. We, after some hard lessons, our first year or two in business, we were like, we don't respond to an RFP unless it is basically the carpet laid out for us. And oftentimes we were the ones that were doing kind of essentially consulting, sometimes paid consulting, but it was to build out a proper RFP that we knew we were going to get because we had all the relationships. We knew the job inside out because we literally wrote the thing, and we wouldn't do it otherwise because it would frustrate me because I know I'd be like, let's say 10 businesses put in a proposal for one of these RFPs. There's somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000 of time wasted out of those 10 businesses. That's awful. Like, I get they're trying to be fair. It's not fair at all. All it does is blow cash, like really hurt these businesses that are putting in way too much. I'm okay with it if it was like almost like mini RFP where it's like, yeah, you take a day to put a little mini draft together and they shortlist you down and you've got a real bona fide chance at it. I don't even know if that's a great way to do it, but the what the demands that they would put in and the amount of money that would disappear it was just criminal.
About halfway through, speaking of blowing cash, if you think your business is blowing cash right now, if you think there's hidden cash in your business and you don't know where it is and you need a tool to help you find it, you need to talk to Blaine Birch and his team at Dry Run because
we're here to help. We are here to help. And that was a beautiful segue. And, I'm going to tell a couple little stories today because I think we found, I'll be honest with you, cash flow is top of mind right now for businesses, and it has to be, and it should be. We send out, just like we got kind of our regular newsletter we sent out, we got thousands of clicks on one article related to how you manage your cash flow through a difficult time. Just screaming that people are concerned about this right now. Forecasting your cash flow, understanding, like modeling your cash flow, and more than just like who owes you money and what money do you owe, but what does your sales look like? What does your sales pipeline look like? How do you find the path forward? How do you navigate forward? It's essential at any time, but right now it is absolutely critical. And the little story I want to tell is we had a customer, and I think it may have been during COVID actually, and it was their advisor came to us, CPA, CFO, I don't recall which, came to us and said, I need Dry Run for this one client. I've got other clients. We'll get them going. But this one client, I got to figure out like right now, like this week, because we have to figure out how to wrap their business up. And we're like, oh shit, that is not what we want Dry Run used for, but we'll show you how to get started. They got into Dry Run and she called us the next week and said, oh my God, we figured out a way to save the business because of Dry Run. Because once they got everything in and they looked forward and they started doing some scenario models and they found out one of them could keep them alive. And sometimes I think business owners are scared to look at that bottom line because they think it's going to be bad news. Maybe it is. But I will tell you that is where you find the path forward, and you find it soon enough that you're giving yourself a fighting chance. So come and talk with us at Dry Run. We will get you up and running in minutes. We will show you what's happening in your business, and you can start to evaluate plan A, plan B, plan C, and find your way forward.
The farther down the road you see it coming, the more options you have, right? I mean, I think even at Dry Run, you've seen scenarios, and you don't have to tell the story, but you've told me about stories where you saw scenarios where one move changed the whole dynamic of the company. It extended your runway. It kept it alive.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will say without a word of a lie, because we're a tech startup, 9 out of 10 die. And we've been around for quite a while now. Like we launched in 16. We've been around a while. I can tell you that dry run, especially in early days, saved us more than once. Absolutely saved us. Our own product saved us because I could see far enough ahead and make adjustments far enough ahead so that what would have been fatal became maybe a speed bump. And it's only by seeing far enough ahead that you can do that. So, yeah, come and talk with us. We'll get you started. We'll help you out, get you going, and
check it out at
you'll be able to see where you're headed.
So, hey, before that break, you mentioned a critical word. I think most consultants who have quick success, meaning I can start a business and immediately see an impact, was relationships, right? So it's somebody that comes out of he's in that world. He's already in the medical world. He comes out of that world, and now I can provide you with advice. Where before I was limited to, I could only talk about my device. Now I can talk about the whole process of device, sales, or whatever that is.
And I think it comes down to seeing the opportunity, and sometimes the opportunity is like kicking your door down. Like when I did consulting work, I didn't actually go look for it. People just came to me and I went, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll take that one. Oh, okay, I'll help you with that one." And that's that opportunity. Like that's telling you things. What I think you need to avoid, like you got to make sure the opportunity is there, because you don't want to try and manufacture an opportunity, because that's can be
because nobody has the time to right? to listen to being sold something. They already have a need. They already have a problem, and they're already doing, a lot of the research. What I think your best, bet in his case is, hey, stop doing the research. You tell me the need, I'll do the research.
Exactly. And Mike, if you start that consulting company, just a reminder, you should call it Oats My Goats.
A division of M&M.
Such a good name.
Division of M&M. His other question was, how do I value it? I mean, what do I charge? Am I going in your world? I mean, you're going to have some expenses, but those could be reimbursed expenses. So but it's about time. It's about, what is it that you provide? It's your time plus the value that you're saving them.
I would say time is, with a consultant like what he's doing, time is very secondary. It's the value.
Well, when I say time, that you're offering, he has to understand his own cost. Right? Yeah, as a baseline.
Oh, yeah.
When you talk about time, hey, this usually takes me to go through an RFP or to identify a need and source vendors and those type of things. I'm going to spend 2 weeks. Well, if it's 2 weeks, you need to account for that. At least.
Yeah. Like we hear all the time, like especially CPAs are trying to move, or a lot of them have successfully moved, and we highly recommend it, that you move to a value pricing model. So it's not hourly. You're offering value, and what should that be priced? But I also know that we did value pricing. We called it value pricing in our agency, but there was always a baseline. So it wasn't cost plus to build in a profit margin. Cost plus to build in the profit margin was literally what we looked at as our costs, as our baseline. And that's exactly what we're saying here. Like, how much time are how much are the costs to you? But then on top of it, then we would look and go, okay, what value do we bring? Our expertise, we've done a bunch of this stuff before. We can probably do it faster than those guys because we've done it a million times and we're really good at it. That doesn't mean we charge cost plus. It's just the baseline. And then you look at what value you're bringing in, and generally it'll be up, and it could be up a lot, right?
I'm actually one of the guys that pushes back a little bit on value pricing. You're like, why would you do that? Well, because value pricing, its whole premise is, what's it worth to you to solve this problem? To one person, it might be $200. To another person, it might be $1,000, right? What's it worth to just make it go away? Well, when you do that, and especially in a small niche, people might talk. Well, he did it for me for $200. He did it for me for $1,000. and all of a sudden you're in kind of a trick bag, and you got to be able to justify why one was higher than the other. I like a more, try to be more consistent where I can justify it better, because I produce seminars. My time is my time. My fee is this, right? And my fee for a seminar, I'll tell you, it's $4,000 a day. Doesn't matter. I don't care if you're National Bank of Arizona. I don't care if you're Wells Fargo, whatever. It's $4,000 a day. I come in. If you want 2 hours of seminar, 4 hours, or 8 hours of seminar, it's $4,000. Me, because it's for the day.
Yeah. But I never especially back in my agency days, I didn't worry. Like there was a layer of competition. There would be maybe especially in an RFP, the few times we there could be some pricing pressures from there. But when you would say okay, this guy charged 200, you charge 1,000.
No.
Yeah, do you want it done right or not? I never apologize for that. It's that's what it is, right?
And which allows you to charge anything you want to. And you get one person that doesn't negotiate.
Well, the market decides that, so you can't charge anything.
No, but I think that's where some accountants have gotten into trouble. Was they'll charge $1,500 to one person and $1,000 to another for basically the same service, and then those two customers end up meeting somehow and talking about it. And I've seen where there have been issues with value pricing where I'm basically charging for the same service, but you were willing to pay more than somebody else was.
Yeah, well, it depends. But value pricing doesn't have to be value pricing could be we're charging $1,500. It's not related to how many hours we do a month. Some months we might do 20 hours, and some months we might do 2, right? But it's a flat rate of $1,500 for everybody because we believe that's the value we can bring to your business. That's still value pricing. What I disagree with is what I disagree with. What I think is pretty flawed is when you just simply tag it to the number of hours. And it's I wasted a bunch of time on a spreadsheet when I probably shouldn't have. Or with us, we have literally, I have talked with a firm before that it's okay, what you took 20 hours or 30 hours to do in a spreadsheet, we did in 5 minutes. And then you can spend your time talking with your customer, and literally they just went, yeah, but then I can't charge them for the 20 or 30 hours. And you're screw you. You are hurting that business. You're offering so little value, and you're doing it because you just want to have a big bill.
I agree with that.
That's
they're
bullshit,
cutting their own throat
right?
when they say stuff like that. But I didn't clarify what I meant by time when I said that in the beginning. What I mean is you have to start there. You cannot charge your value pricing when you're setting your price lower than what it costs you. What's your time worth? What are the fixed expenses of your business? If it costs me $10,000 to run this just because I got rent and I got dues and subscriptions to all this software and these type of things, I have to at least cover that plus my time. I have to start there as the beginning. I can't go below this. So when you add up your cost, then you add up the amount of profit that you need. Well, then above that is your value pricing. But the way I understand value pricing is I'm going to start pretty high with you and try to build towards this is what it costs to solve your problem. Because all value pricing is you're trying to establish what the problem is and what's it worth to you to fix it. Well, if it's
the other thing though too is if somebody came to me and said you charge these guys 1,000 and you charge me 1,500, I'd be there's a reason for that. We looked at it's a totally different business and it's a totally different service, and we looked at it and decided we know what we have to do. So we may have charged you more because that one was easier. It was less, right? It was so. There's if you're doing to me, it's the worst thing to me is it's a commodity. You're pricing, and it's everybody. I don't care if you're a $20 million business or a $500,000 business, you're going to pay me $1,500 a month. No, you're offering more value to that $20 million business because you know it's going to be 1,000 times more complicated. And the money they'll make or save off of your advice is significantly more than the $500,000 business. So your pricing should be adjusted accordingly. So your baseline it probably is higher already for hours, and you got to make sure you're not burning, like you're literally losing money on it. But then there's this component of I'm bringing you all of my expertise, and you're a $20 million business. I'm not charging you $500 because I have expertise that is going to make you
Yeah,
a
I
ton
don't
of
agree
money.
with that. Wait a second. I do agree with that. What I don't agree with is the fact that people are just picking, right? They're just choosing. The way I understand value pricing. All right, so let me say it this way. The most frustrating answer I've been given in the world of anything, it doesn't matter what it is when I ask them what the price is and they tell me, well, it depends. Well, what does it depend on? Depends on, I mean, that tells me that you don't really have a set price. It's whatever
Well,
we agree on, and
yeah,
I'm
but
okay with that.
yeah, but like I said, if it's not a commodity, it's not a set thing. If I go in to buy a car, I want to know what the price is because it's the same as the next guy. If I'm offering professional services to a multi-million-dollar business, like we didn't have a price. We didn't have like, oh, we do a website for this price. No, because every business we talked with or every organization, their needs were so completely different. It's like, what do you want me just to throw at a giant number? Like, no, we're going to find out what works for you, and we're going to give you customized pricing that is perfect for you because it has
You
nothing
just
to do with these
mentioned
guys over
the
here. We weren't
best
doing cookie
argument
cutter or
against
anything. Right?
value pricing I've ever heard. Car dealer, same car. Two different people get two different prices. Why? Because one person thinks it's okay to pay a certain amount because it solves their transportation problem. Another person is a little bit more frugal, does a little bit more work, negotiates it down, gets the same car at a lower price because that's what it costs to solve their transportation problem. That's value pricing in the wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And so value
Yeah.
pricing
All right.
doesn't make sense when it's the exact same product. Like it does for them because they're making money, right? But when you're consulting, it, I don't know if I would say 100% of the time, but if I look at it, I'm like, I would say it would be rare that a commodity sort of price makes sense. Like even when honestly, when I see CPAs and they have packages on their website and they're the exact same price, and I look at it and go, how does that have anything to do with me? Like it wouldn't relate to my business and what I need. I want someone to come in and say, this is what you need. And it's not going to be like, we never had, I bet you in thousands of projects in over a decade in my agency, I don't think we ever charged the same thing for anything for even for the same client over again, because it was never the same. It was never, ever, ever the same. It's okay. Let me say, this is what it'd be closer to a car. Okay. You've got your price. Okay. You want to go in and you go to a house builder. How much is a house? Well, it depends. Depends on what? Well, how many square feet you have, how many floors you have,
No,
how many, like what flooring do you want? Do you want these kind of, like everything
I would agree with
depends
that,
on
but
what
most of
makes
them
sense
try
for
to
them, right?
say it's $200 a square foot or whatever their number is. They can at least start there, right? They have a number, yeah. And
Start there, yeah. Well, yeah, because you have to have some sort of starting point. Like I think there's a misnomer that value pricing, like when we did value pricing, there were some things that were much more on the value pricing side and much more on the cost plus side. But there was always a component of our expertise and everything, right? And like if we were doing a branding project, here's like a good example. The logo, we would have probably like there would be a lot more value pricing in that. I'm definitely not doing time because it might be like, yeah, that logo came together really quick and it was like 20 hours, and the next guy is 200 hours, right? But if it came together fast, a lot of times it was because I have 2 degrees and 8 years of work, and then I had a team, and I put them together, and there's 40 years of us sitting there, and we didn't have that much time into it on the logo side. But then the rest of the brand packaging side could be much more straightforward, much more like a commodity, because you're doing letter, a business card, putting this whole package together. That was much more clear on hours. But it wouldn't take this sort of high level of expertise. And it was the difference between success and failure, was that we were really good at that. Everything is built on this corner post. We're not charging by hour for that.
Personal preference, I would rather do value pricing than cost plus, because I don't know what things, I don't know if it's 10 hours or 50 hours, right? At least with value pricing, even if I'm paying more than somebody else, I know what I'm paying and I'm not paying above that. It's
well, the other challenge we had, and I know a lot of you guys out there have this, is we would do sort of cost price, but the customer always wants cost assured.
Will not go beyond.
Always.
Yeah, will not go beyond.
They would not want to do like hourly. Yeah. So what they want to know is, they would say, well, how many hours do you have into this? But by the way, we're not paying a dime more, even if we do a bunch of like changes in their scope creep and everything, right? So it's like they want their cost assured, and they want you to do it by the minute. And like, no, we're going to figure out what it is, and we're going to have some buffer space in there, and we're going to have, if you're making changes, it's going to cost, and we're going to have some value component built into there on top of our cost, because we're bringing this level of expertise that nobody else has, because, like nobody else has done this weird ass touchscreen thing. No one else knows how to do it. We do, because we just deployed one. But that's the thing, is that the customer always wants, it's like, I want one flat price, cost assured, no matter if I'm a pain in the ass or not. I get that, but you're probably going to spend more because you're so concerned about having the price, and they have to cover their ass because they don't know what it's like working with you. Right. So, there's, it is what it is.
We're talking about horror stories now. Right. So do you have one? I've got a big horror story that I ran across, probably 6 months ago, about a consultant. First of all, I'm going to say this: if you're a consultant, have the best intentions in mind, right? Always have the consumer and your customer, right? You want them to both win. You don't want one person to lose over the other. So the horror story.
You won't be around long if you don't, because I think your reputation will suffer, and that'll be the end of that. So for self-preservation, besides
the one
the
that
fact
comes
that
to
it's
mind
the right
is like top of mind right now as we hear about the opioid crisis, right? You're like going, how did that even start? How did people get like where's this? Because I was a kid, it wasn't opioids, it wasn't it wasn't anything like that. So I actually went back and says, when did this start? And there was a pharmaceutical company called Purdue Pharma, I think is what it is. And they hired McKinsey, believe it or not, to be able to test, market, to present this out. And McKinsey at that point in time presented a super aggressive marketing plan that really attacked, the physician. And it was with OxyContin. And it was this super aggressive sales and marketing plan about putting this in front of every single physician that actually started the opioid epidemic. But the idea originated from a consultant. That's the last thing in the world I want is my name on Wikipedia saying something bad happens 10 years from now. Oh, we traced it back to this guy who everybody believed and everybody thought was right. I created some global, catastrophe. As innocent as I could be, it could happen.
Yeah. And the question is, why isn't anyone held responsible?
I would be
that
held
actually
responsible.
Deploys this stuff.
McKinsey, not. Mike Blaine, is that weird? Oh, I did this earlier, and I got balloons.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
Oh, did he? I've never had that. I think mine, I turned it off probably by accident before we even started, so I never got any of that. So. Oh, jeez.
I think the farther back from the camera.
Do I do that?
I don't see. Like this,
I don't get that.
Look at that. I got fireworks. But I have to scoot back from the camera. Hey, watch it rain.
I think I must have turned mine off without knowing it because I don't know.
You gotta get it to where you can see it. Oh, that's a thumbs down.
For those of you that are listening and not watching, Mike's doing all these little hand signals so that Apple will make things rain and make little balloons go across the screen and all this other ridiculous stuff. So,
all right, so
I always forget not everyone's watching us here. Right?
What's our best advice for people that want to be consultants? What would you tell them today? Your best advice?
Well, I think the thing, like I sort of alluded to it a little bit before. Validate there's a market, but validate there's a market by them literally as a consultant kind of almost banging down your door asking you, like, the opportunity needs to be there. Trying to make an opportunity because you want to be a consultant is not going to be successful. Seeing an opportunity where your expertise dovetails with their needs,
right? Where
great opportunity.
That's what you're saying is people need to be asking you to be a consultant before you become a consultant.
Well, I think so. Or you have to see that opportunity and see that market opportunity, and it's like drive that wedge in. Like you saw that opportunity. I know it's not consulting, but you saw that opportunity with your staffing company.
Yeah.
You saw a different way to do it. You saw the problem. You saw the opportunity. I think the most dangerous way is I'm going to make up an opportunity because I want to be a consultant. Yeah, that's not going to work. You need to see that, like, where they're begging you for it, right?
And they don't have to beg you for it. They just have to be begging for an answer.
Begging for an answer, exactly. And if you're in the mix, you'll see it or you'll hear it or they'll come and ask you. Like they don't necessarily have to keep trying to hire you, but you have to see it there. And you have to be able to go in and it should be like, hey, would you be interested if I came in and actually just like wrote up a report on this and helped you guys figure this out? And if they're like, hell yeah, I'll trip over myself, we need help, that's a good indication you're in a good place. Otherwise, going in and saying, hey, I can write 100-page report on this. And they're like, why the hell would I? Yeah, I'm not even reading that, let alone paying you a dime for it.
Episode 115, we're closing in on season 3 being done. January 1st, season 4. 4 seasons, man. We've lasted longer than some sitcoms.
Yeah. A lot of sitcoms. Oh, and you know what I just realized that makes it easier for us is our seasons correspond with the years. I just never thought that till today. 23 is the season 3, 24 is season 4. So yeah, well, so I want to make it sound like we're coming in on episode 200, but no, that's a ways away.
But only doing if you do want to help us, if you want this to continue, if you want to see season 4, season 5 and beyond, go to Cashflow Mike. Go to mikeandblaine.com. Damn these 10% beers. Go to Mike Blaine.
And you can buy us more 10% beers, and so you can really have fun. And honestly, if you sponsor us, you can specify. I'm going to say this: you can specify what beer you want, because like if you're a brewery, you should be coming to us because we will promote you. We promote breweries anyways. We'll promote your brewery, but you can even say, yeah, I'm going to sponsor a beer. They all have to be over 10%. And we'll do
still,
it.
mikeandblaine.com. You can buy our merchandise. My favorite shirt out there is Just Giving Her. Just Giving Her. Right. Hey, that's what you did today on episode 115. Yeah. You just gave her. See you now.
Subscribe, follow us, and we'll see you next week.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.